Welcome to my first Patreon video. My first video post. I'm super excited. I can't believe this. It's been quite the journey to get here, and I'm just really enthusiastic and excited about sharing all this stuff with you guys and working on this with you. Thank you so much for partnering with me and investing in me. It really means a lot, and I'm just super excited that you're interested in this character and this story. I think it's going to be an epic, awesome tale. It's been really fantastic working on it through National Novel Writing Month. I'm just at the end of that here, and it's turning into quite the epic story. So I'm really excited. I hope that I can write something and share something with you that just brings you a lot of joy and makes you laugh and cry and just get excited. All the things that I want it to do, I hope that it does for you. I wanted to take this video and sort of talk to you about a few things, just kind of let you know sort of what to expect from my Patreon page. I wanted to share a little bit about me and my artistic journey, since you know, some of you may not have known me from anything, and I want to sort of share a little bit about where I've been, what I've done with my career, and where I'd like to end up. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the writing process that I'm using, sort of some of my influences and what tools I'm using. Talk a little bit about my experience with writing. I also want to talk to you a little bit about my illustrative approach and some of my influences there, and share with you some of the process of how I'm creating stuff. So I really look forward to sharing this time with you guys. It is a little bit of a longer video, so feel free to have it on in the background and listen to it, or look at parts of it, whatever you want to do. This is going to be part of my drops for some of you patrons who have really come out and invested a lot into me. So I hope that these videos are worthwhile for you and that you find value in them. Also, if there's anything at all on my page or in what I'm doing that you would like to see me do differently or better, please let me know. Just drop me a note on the Patreon page. I'm totally open to feedback, and I want to provide something for you guys that you find valuable. You're investing in me, and I want to give back to you as best I can. So please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. So I think let's start with talking a little bit about my experience, kind of where I come from. So my artistic journey kind of started when I was a kid. I used to draw all the time as a kid. It sort of started from following my brother's footsteps. He's a little bit older than me, and he would sit around and draw, and I always wanted to, be like him and be able to draw like him. He's very talented, and so that kind of spurred me on. My dad is also an artist. He's done quite a bit of painting over the years. So I think there's some family kind of traits there that carry through. I spent 2 years in art college at Grant MacEwan, which is now MacEwan University. I met my wife there, and we got married, and I worked for 2 years, or for a number of years actually, after at Home Depot. I graduated in '99 and worked at Home Depot for a few years. Then I went back to university because I found being an artist was really difficult to make a living, and so I went to university and got a visual communication design degree from the University of Alberta. And after that, I got my first job working at Elk Island Public School Board, just doing websites and brochures and stationery and different things for schools and the school board. And then during my time there, I started kind of doing my own stuff, freelancing stuff on the side, and it got to a point where I just couldn't juggle both. So shortly before my daughter was born, my first child, I left my full-time job with benefits and everything to start my own little business, and worked out of my basement just doing graphic design, websites, same kind of stuff, stationery, brochures, print. For a number of years, I worked at that little business called Live Pixel Design from 2005 to 2009, and during that time, I started working at Alberta Education with a really good friend of mine from high school who had finished his post-secondary schooling in 2000, and he was working professionally since 2000 as an illustrator. He had a contract at Alberta Education and told me that they were looking for more people, so we started working together. It was great. For a while, we were building some really great stuff there. And then in 2008, there was sort of the economic downturn. And we started to look around and see what we could kind of get our hands into. And we thought maybe we should just start our own business and build our own things. So we started Pulp Studios Incorporated in late 2009, and we've been running that ever since. And the whole purpose of it, what we wanted to do was build something that gave us the opportunity to do more illustration work specifically. And it kind of panned out for us. Our bread and butter these days is illustration and animation work. More animation than illustration. It's kind of where the income is at for a business. Running a business has sure taught me a lot. With Pulp Studios, we had quite a large team for a while in 2013. Between our employees and our contractors, we'd have anywhere between 7 and 13 people in the studio. We've worked on projects for Microsoft and BioWare and a lot of public sector things like Alberta Education and some stuff for Alberta Health. A lot of programs and different things that they need. So it's been good. I know that working full-time at a creative job has shown me that being creative is challenging when you're in the context of running a business. It's tiring and difficult, and a lot of what you do is at the service of others, which is what I've signed up for. I mean, I'm thankful that I have a creative career and that I get to do the work that I get to do, and I get to work with an incredible person. But I've always wanted to tell my own stories too. And over the past, I would say 3-4 years, I've been really, really working hard outside of my full-time work at Pulp Studios, being the creative director and doing all this stuff there. I've been working on my own stuff on the side and been sort of pursuing as much storytelling as I can and telling my stories that I want to tell as much as I can. And my family has been very, very patient with me. My kids are a good sort of I guess, sounding board. I get to bounce stuff off them, and they will actually spend time listening to me and kind of sharing my ideas and stuff. I've got a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, a girl and a boy, and they're great. They're awesome. And my wife is super supportive and very patient with me. They give me the space that I need to be able to do these creative endeavors outside of my regular work, and it's wonderful. So this Patreon page is hopefully another stepping stone towards my long-term goal, which is I'd love to be doing children's books and writing my own stories, novels, etc., and doing just my own sort of illustration work here out of my studio. And this is sort of part of that process. So this story that I'm writing and another novel that I worked on in another National Novel Writing Month called Echoes are things that I will eventually kind of complete and work on. I've got a number of children's books in the works that I'm kind of constantly chipping away at as I can. And it's a fun and challenging process. I really, really like National Novel Writing Month. It's a really great sort of catalyst, or I don't know, boilerplate, whatever you want to call it, for getting a story out. So that's what I've been kind of focusing on this month, is the story of Tome of Tomorrows, and I'm using it, National Novel Writing Month, as a platform or a leap off point for the story on it in en masse. I don't know what you want to say. The big story. So it's coming along. Um, so, anyways, I want to talk to you. That's kind of, sorry, I'm kind of digress a little bit here. That's a little bit about my artistic journey. So, creative person at heart, storyteller at heart, kind of like struggling to make ends meet. No, I shouldn't say struggling. I'm blessed. I've got a really great business partner, a really great career, and providing for my family through that. Struggling to get to the place where I can just focus on telling my own stories. That's more the truth of it. And and this sort of process here, like I said, the Patreon's kind of a stepping stone towards that. So you guys are a part of that process for me, and I appreciate it. Um, so right now, I'm working on Tome of Tomorrows. I'm also I've got a YouTube channel where I put up process videos of other artwork that I'm doing. I'm also sharing some content that I think is really great for beginner artists, or, you know, I guess artists in general, illustrators. And it's my hope that I can sort of encourage people with my own work and with my own struggles. So the sort of banner that I'm placing those up under is called Failing Towards Success. And it's kind of chronicling my journey from where I'm at to becoming a published children's book illustrator. And I go through things like, drawing processes, some philosophical discussions, and, content around how I feel about the creative industry, about being a creative person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some of it's a little bit heady, some of it's very practical. So it's a bit of a mix. I've also got a playlist up there on my YouTube channel called Building a Visual Library. So I've taken to sort of trying to grow as an illustrator through trying to understand things better. So right now I'm just slowly trying to chip away at understanding the human body better, because I want to get better at drawing humans and people. Humans and people. Humans, we're all people. Anyways, um, so that's what I've kind of doing on the YouTube side of things, and it's been very enjoyable and very informative for my own processes as well. So, let me talk to you now just quickly about my writing process. So I've found this program called Dragon Anywhere by a company called Nuance, which is a dictation software. It's great. I can write while I drive. So we live out in the country, and I have to drive my kids into school every morning. And so on my drive back home to my office, I am able to actually write just by dictation. It's really, really great. It's been super useful. It kind of is a little bit hit and miss. So sometimes if, for example, I say something like we sat down and ate fish, it might say something like we sat down and ate Swedish, which is not correct. So the editing process is a little bit tricky when I go kind of to clean up and rewrite things. Sometimes I'm like, what the heck am I even saying here? Because it's a little bit crazy. But it's saved me a lot of time and given me a lot of productivity where I wouldn't normally have it. So that's been great. I'm also excited about this process because my wife is kind of buying into it in some ways. She's very good with wordsmithing and such, and has offered to collaborate with me in a way to sort of edit and help me edit my story, edit this story. So that's going to be really exciting to work with her. Um, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to how that impacts my writing process too. I wanted to sort of share a little bit too about National Novel Writing Month a little bit more. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but every November there's a website. It's NaNoWriMo.org, I believe. NaNoWrimo.org. I think it's .org. Anyways, and basically every November there's a whole schwack of people all around the world who take part in this, and the whole purpose is to try and write 50,000 words of a story in 1 month, and it's essentially supposed to be like an ugly first draft of a story. And so I've done it now. This is my third time. The first two times I was working on the Echoes story, which is sort of an epic fantasy story set in a kind of a pseudo Earth type thing. I'll go into that some other time, maybe, if you guys are interested. But so NaNoWriMo's been really great, and it's a really neat community too. There's a lot of people that you can connect with and get encouragement through, and they have a lot of resources and stuff to help you. It came about that I took part in this from reading. There's a book centered around the movement called No Plot, No Problem. So if you're an inspiring writer, I encourage you to read that book, No Plot, No Problem. It's great, and like I read the book and I was like, I can totally write a novel. I'm a writer. I'm 100% a writer. It's just very encouraging and gives you kind of like a lot of fire under your butt to get that going. So it was great, and it's been a really good process for me to be involved in that. So like I mentioned, I'm writing Echoes. I'm also writing a graphic novel with my business partner. It's about 200 pages in so far. It's a very long story, pretty absurd, crazy story about a one-armed knight with a unibrow. It's called Harrows of Harwurzel, and we're just in the process of editing. Um, well, we've got to finish up a few chapters. We've got to finish up the writing, just polishing it up, and then we've got to do the editing. When I say polish, I mean breaking down all the content that we put into actual comic pages with panels, and do panel breakdowns and all that stuff, and marking out the dialogue and sound effects and all those aspects. So that's something that I'm working on with Kelly, my business partner, and it's incredibly fun and ridiculous. It's an absurd tale, but you can, if you're interested, you know, you'll probably find some of that content on some more content about that on my YouTube channel as well. I do have a couple of process videos of drawing some of the character designs up there on my YouTube channel. But anyways, all I'm saying is I've got sort of a background in writing these kinds of stories, and it's been really, really fun for me. And it's kind of like I've got a few irons in the fire, I guess, story-wise, and it's great. I'm really thankful to be doing that. I've got a couple of children's books that I've put quite a substantial amount of work into. One of them has gone through a number of editing rounds with some publishers, and I'm in the process of reworking the dummy pages and trying to get that ready to go. So that's been great too. And in terms of my writing this story, I think it's interesting. I started sort of conceiving Possum Awesome as a children's book story. But as I've gone along, it's sort of become this more epic, long tale, and has sort of developed into this story with a lot of heart. So an underlying theme in this story right now is family. So it's about finding family and what does family mean. And Possum Awesome kind of goes through this journey where he kind of discovers that question, or that answer to that question. So you'll be able to sort of see that kind of unfold as the story is, I guess, as it's shared with me and I share it with you. And it's been yeah, it's been really interesting. So the story, and I think what happens is I think a lot of my influences are coming through. So I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I'll just kind of share with you some of my influences when it comes to writing and the type of stories that I really love. So of course, most fantasy or writers who dabble in sort of the fantastic would be inclined to enjoy Tolkien, and of course I'm a big fan of J.R.R. Tolkien, and have been for years. Since junior high school, I think I read The Hobbit, and it was like, wow, it just blew my mind, and I've really enjoyed his writing, and of course the films are great too. So Robert Jordan is another author has an insane epic sort of life's works story called the Wheel of Time series. If you haven't read that, if you're interested in fantasy novels, I really encourage you to read it. It's a lot. There's like 13 volumes and they're like 800 pages each or something like that. It's insane. But really, really brilliant stuff. Really great. A contemporary fantasy writer who has a big influence on me is Brandon Sanderson. He wrote the Mistborn series and Stormlight Archives. and I've really been enjoying his work over the past couple years here. Um, I've also really enjoyed over the years some comic books. So comic books have continued to sort of influence me. In the 80s and 90s, I read X-Men a lot and Spider-Man. And then also the works of Katsuhiro Otomo. He wrote a story called Akira, which is a very long, epic manga from the 80s. And there's a film associated with that too, but it's brilliant work. And then children's books are a big influence on me too. So, in particular, a couple Journey, Quest, and Return by Aaron Becker. David Small's work has always impacted me. I find his illustrations quite beautiful and informative, and just really, really special. And his wife has written, um, oh shoot, what's her name? Sarah Small, I believe. Let me check just a sec. I beg your pardon. It's Sarah Stewart. Sarah Stewart and David Small. They worked on books together, like The Money Tree. I think they did uh, The Library together, The Librarian. Just trying to see my bookshelf over there. I can't. I'm squinting at it. I can't see. I don't know. Anyway, sorry. But anyways, they're a big influence on me. I really, yeah, love that work. I also was like a really big fan of like the Golden books. My grandparents always had like those little Disney Golden books and Dr. Seuss, and I read those a ton when I was a kid, um, over and over and over again. I think the style and approach of the publication on those is probably what influenced me more than anything. Those little books were just so beautiful, and like the spot illustrations with the text, it just kind of, I don't know, and the feel of the paper and the smell of the paper just kind of left a lasting impression on me over the years. So that's kind of a little bit about my writing process and about some of my influences. If you have any, thoughts or questions or anything that you can relate to in regards to those, please just I'd love to see your comments in the Patreon feed there. If you want to chat, go for it. In terms of illustration, so I wanted to share a little bit about the illustrative medium that I'm choosing to work in for these stories. So I wanted the artwork to have a warmth to it, and I want it to feel sort of almost akin to that Golden Book art from way back when. So I'm working in ink, but also for the line work. But then I'm also doing the colors using Prismacolor um, Prismacolor markers, and I've got a few Copic markers too, and then also watercolor in conjunction with those. And I find that those give me like a really, and then, from time to time you'll see me, and I'll share when I do, I'll put up the process stuff, but I might do some edits and some adjustments digitally as well, because that's just so expedient and works really well. And I have to bring this stuff I have to scan it in to get it in to you anyways. So I'll probably be making some adjustments here and there as I go with that. Anyways, the medium I find is really, really enjoyable to work in. It's similar to, like, working with the Prismacolors is similar to painting, and I'm a painter at heart, and so I've really enjoyed working with them. You're able to sort of overlap and almost blend colors together. And so that's been a really great process for me. I'm using watercolor paper, and the paper I'm using right now is probably not quite thick enough. I might have to get a little bit of a thicker weight. I think it's 140 pound that I have right now. I might have to get something a bit thicker than that, but it's a hot press watercolor paper, so it's fairly smooth. Yeah, and I think that you'll enjoy the artwork for its warmth and the sort of tactility to it. I'm sort of also integrating some gouache over top of the stuff that I do, and it just feels right for what I'm trying to achieve with the story. So yeah, that's kind of a quick rundown of sort of where things are at right now. I hope that you've enjoyed watching the painting of the first piece. It's I'm happy with how it turned out, and I think that it sort of shares a good glimpse of what the story might be, kind of where it might be going. You know, there's some interesting stuff happening, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys think about the story and about where it goes. And yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to this. I know it was a long video. You can let me know if you think these long ones are like just ridiculous and pointless. I want to give you as much value as I can. So if you'd rather see like just a quick 5-minute process video and I just put it up there and you can just see the piece come together, and you'd rather not listen to me ramble on, let me know. If you enjoy this and you would like to hear more pontifications around the creative process and what it's like being a creative person and my life journey, whatever, let me know that too. I'm always game for that. So anyways, thanks very much, you guys. I can't express my gratitude enough for your investment in this and your taking part in it. I hope that you enjoy the prologue. It's a short one. It's not like Brandon Sanderson style prologue where it's like a whole chapter. It's pretty short, but hopefully your appetite has been how do you say that? Hopefully it whets your appetite, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, for the rest of the story to come. And I will get the next story update up probably towards, well, I want to say the end of December, but we got Christmas coming, so it might be before that. And I'll check in with you guys later. Please comment and communicate with me through the Patreon blog, and reach out to me in any way you see fit. Thanks very much, guys. If you'd like to reach me on social media, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Corey Lansdell. On Facebook, it's at Corey Lansdell Creates. And if you'd like to leave me a message or a comment on one of my videos here, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, see you next time. Bye. Bye.